I'll give you no damn names. And I mean, bro, they've only killed about like what one line of succession, to be quite honest with you. And all those guys been replaced by harder liners than the guys that they were replaced with. So I'm sorry, but you guys sound ridiculous on the right now. And it lets us know that you guys don't know anything that's really going on. You're literally taking Fox News at its well at their word. And I get it. I get it. That's what some of y'all are used to doing, but you understand how what Fox News is saying, what's happening out there in the Strait of Hormuz or on the battlefield is just not reality, right? Like you understand that. Like what's happening out there in the real world, Fox News is not reporting that. But it is what it is. And here's the thing: what kills me is that CNN has been doing way better reporting on the Iran war than Fox News. All right, guys, let's get right back into it. Let's get into John Bolton. Let's get to see what he got to say.
Well, the Chinese obviously.
First of all, what's your view of this new reporting on the Chinese government's thinking, at least, when it comes to the Iran war?
Well, the Chinese obviously have a lot at stake given their purchases of oil, not just from Iran, but from the Saudis and the Emiratis as well. I don't think it would necessarily be helpful to us, though, because with Trump just after his meeting with Xi Jinping making arms sales to Taiwan a bargaining chip, I'd hate to see other elements come into play here that would affect our position in the Pacific. I think ultimately the only way to deal with the Iranian regime, certainly in the question of oil and opening the Strait of Hormuz, is for the U.S. and the Gulf Arabs to force it open.
It's usually military force. That's what.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though: if the strongest navy in the world or the military in the world can't get it open, what makes you think that the Gulf countries can do it? Exactly, being delusional.
You're saying, right?
I think that's the only way to restore deterrence against Iran turning access to the strait on and off like a light switch. This idea that they and the Omanis are negotiating what toll rates will be and the like is unacceptable. The other Gulf Arab.
Oh, guys, make sure to like the video, guys. Make sure to smash that like button. Let's get more people in on the conversation. Let's push this video in the algorithm by smashing that like button.
Arab states have rejected that this morning, and I think it shows the huge range of difference that still exists between Iran on the one hand, and I think not just the Gulf Arabs, but the U.S. on the other.
And would that include U.S. Boots on the ground, American troops getting directly involved on the ground?
Well, I think if the operation were limited to pushing back drone launching sites, going after fast boat, protected harbors and that kind of thing, a fairly limited boots on the ground, yeah, I think that might well be warranted. I think if we could relieve the tension on the international economy by providing access for Gulf Arab oil back out into international markets while keeping the blockade on Iranian oil, that could go a long way toward pressuring the regime in Tehran, but eliminating the pressure on the global economy.
Ambassador, CNN is also learning that Iran has already restarted some of its drone production during the 6-week ceasefire and is reconstituting its military.
I mean, yeah, they was making missiles and drones. That's why the foreign minister came out and says we're at 120% restock. It's AKA, man, we have more missiles and drones we had before you guys struck us. So, I mean, Justin, we're locked and loaded. And that's what Iran is saying. And this is why people are a bit weary of attacking them, because it's like, we're basically going to get right back into this war and they're going to be a little bit more capable. And here's the thing, like I said, like, what are we going to do? Like, Operation Epic Fury didn't give us anything. So what's the next plan? Are we going to try to open the strait with military force, boots on the ground? Like what? Because resuming an Operation Epic Fury Part 2, like if that don't do anything for us, we're just going to be wasting more munitions and leaving Iran looking even better.
Much faster than initially estimated. How concerning is that to you? And how would you advise President Trump to address this specific issue right now?
Well, if these reports are accurate, I think it's very concerning. The 6 weeks of ceasefire, I think, have benefited only Iran. They enabled them to pick themselves up off the ground, dig out some of the arsenals and storage facilities that we had closed off, perhaps indeed begin significant new manufacturing of drones and perhaps ballistic missiles as well. It tells you what this regime is all about. Even deep down into the layers of the Revolutionary Guard, they see their primary mission not as benefiting the people of Iran, but maintaining the regime. So
Yeah.
that's why ultimately I think the ceasefire will, looking back on it, we'll see was a mistake.
These latest U.S. intelligence assessments that CNN is now reporting on, they seem to.
But here's the thing, though. We were running out of targets on top. Like, that's the problem. One of the reasons for the ceasefire is that we were running out of targets, and the only targets left were, well, energy, power plants and bridges. And let's be real. I mean, we're kind of teetering on war crimes at that point. And if we do that to Iran, then when they start doing it to our allies in the Gulf region, I'm gonna be real with you, then the global economy is really going to be cooked. And a lot of these countries in the Middle East and in Northern Africa are going to face an energy crisis and a famine. And we don't want that. We don't want that from nobody. But I mean, shoot, apparently some people in our leadership don't care.
To stand in stark contrast to what the U.S. military CENTCOM commander, Admiral Brad Cooper, told lawmakers earlier this week. Cooper testified on Tuesday that Iran cannot reconstitute a lot of this for many years rather than months. How do you read this seeming disconnect?
Well, there certainly is a seeming disconnect, and I think it's very hard without access to the data. But I think ultimately American interests should be dictated by reality. And if it turns out that we didn't get as much as we thought we did, we should keep that in mind, because if we allow the regime to get up, if we declare this operation over, they will go back to doing exactly what they were doing before, as they seem to have already started, not just on the drones, the ballistic missiles, the nuclear program, the terrorist network, and repressing their own people. It would be a tragedy if 5 years from now we look back at what we've just gone through and say it was all to no avail because we left the regime in place.
So you oppose these ceasefires because you make the point that only Iran is benefiting from
here's the thing. This would have been the best thing for Trump to do. Just come to a nuclear deal with Iran while they was willing to give up their uranium. We should have just took it from them then, instead of trying to just get them to give up their, well, we was asking for too much. Because remember, Iran was actually willing to give up their nuclear their nuclear enrichment capability and give up their 6% enrichment. But we effed that up. We moved the goalposts. We're like, well, actually, no, now we want you to water down your ballistic missiles, and we want you to give up on all of your proxies. Stop funding them. That's what they're just like, hell no. Like, and that's the thing. Now we're not getting anything out of them. They were actually willing to give up their enriched uranium, give up on enrichment altogether, if we didn't pop off with them, if we didn't start this war with them. Now that we did, and we killed the leader who was actually working out that deal with us, now we got a more hardline leader, which is his son, pretty much telling us that, no, we're not giving up the 60%. No, we're not giving up our right to enrich, and we're controlling the Strait. So, guys, when these Republicans sit here and say, oh, when we took down leadership, actually, that's one of the main reasons we're in this bad position we're in today.
These ceasefires, they can regroup and rebuild its military during a ceasefire. Is that right?
Yeah, look, I don't know what Trump's objectives are. I think it's been unclear for 3 months. I think the most justifiable objective is regime change. And I do think the regime has suffered significant damage, both in terms of materiel, weapons production, the economy, and in terms of its own leadership. And I think pulling back now really risks losing all the gains that we have made.
A final question, Ambassador, before I let you go. President Trump just announced that the United States will send an additional 5,000 military troops to Poland, an apparent reversal of some recent moves by his own Pentagon. And this has already been a topic of focus for Secretary of State Marco Rubio during his current NATO meetings in Sweden. What do you think is going on here?
Well, I think this is just incoherent. We had 5,000 withdrawn from Germany, then the 4,000 man deployment to Poland called back, now 5,000 going to Poland. We need to have a functioning alliance. You need to have coherence and stability. That's not what we see in evidence here. There are good arguments to redeploy NATO forces from time to time. I think deployments to Poland and other states closer to where the real threat is from Russia makes sense. But it ought to be done strategically, not out of a personal pique of some foreign leader criticizing the U.S. or something other than a legitimate military reason.
We heard from the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. He just wrapped up a very important meeting of NATO foreign ministers. Rubio's goal is to calm allies who are unsettled by the increasingly strained relationship they have with the United States.
Oh, hey, Asher. And oh, Jed, you still in here? Hey, shout out to my dog, Jed. But oh, yeah, guys, I'm going to have to go ahead and stop doing the live streams for like a couple weeks. That's pretty much what I've been diagnosed with. They've been pretty much killing my engagement because, I get a good amount of views and all this good stuff, but due to the amount of people that, click on and click off, it low-key kills my engagement. And then, YouTube punishes my channel for that. So yeah, I know. I got to pretty much stop doing the live streams every day, and I could probably only do them like once a week. So we're going to go back to the horizontal, guys. We're going back to old school. Just make sure you guys like and share the video. Appreciate the support, guys. Let's keep it going.
And it comes amid President Trump's abrupt shifting of U.S. troops in Europe. Yeah. And it's the first high-level NATO gathering since President Trump threatened to leave the alliance just a few.
Yeah, I know. The reason for the constant shadow bans or the throttling of my engagement was because of how successful the lives would be. Like, I get a lot of engagement, I get a lot of likes, but here's the problem though. So many people would watch for 3 seconds and then switch off, and it would be more than the people who are actually hanging on. I can't help that, it being on the vertical live. So they would punish my channel through the bad engagement metrics, which would be the retention time. So, pretty much the way to build good retention time is how you guys stick on here. You listen to me for minutes and minutes and minutes, and that builds retention, what actually fixes the engagement of the channel so we can start getting that push again. So for you guys who actually stick around and watch for a long time, you guys have really truly helped the channel out and who like the video. But all right, guys, let's keep it going. Let's see here.
2 days ago.
Because actually, I want to get into my whole point here and how we low-key just how we bombed ourselves into a terrible position with Iran. Like how all of the right wings have been saying, we bombed 3 layers of leadership. Yeah, that's actually the reason why we can't get shit out of Iran. The leadership before this was willing to give up their enrichment. Yeah, they were willing to give up their stockpile. Now that we bombed those guys out of existence, we got more hardliners who aren't giving us anything. So when Republicans sit here and brag about how we took out lines of succession, that's actually the reason why we can't get shit now. But let's get into that because this kind of goes into my point. Because yeah, we had a plan, guys. We had a plan. After we took out the Ayatollah, a certain person was supposed to come in and take over, just like we did with Maduro. But sadly, it looks like we might have accidentally killed the guy. It's gonna keep it real. We might have accidentally bombed him. But let's get into it, just like Lauren Johnny.
The most unlikely puppet in Iran. Stunning new the most unlikely puppet in Iran. Stunning new details tonight breaking about a U.S.-Israeli plan to install the former Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad back in power.
Damn.
Now, he, of course, is a hardliner. Now, the New York Times is revealing the existence of this plan, which played out like an action movie, even reporting that Ahmadinejad himself was consulted about it. Now, Ahmadinejad was under house arrest as the war began. I mean, he was a hardliner who called for the end of Israel, but he had fallen out of favor with Iran's powerful regime circles, right? He was under house arrest. Now, then Ahmadinejad gets injured at an Israeli strike near his home on the first day of the war. If you remember that. Wow.
Yep. And this is what I was saying. It does seem like everybody that we had set up to take over after we took out Khomeini, Israel end up just killing them. Bro. So we had a backup plan, guys. Apparently we did. But Israel just said, nah, fuck that backup plan, man. We want this war to keep going. And this war is going to stop if we let the U.S. have a backup plan. So, like I said, it does seem that we wanted to give, Iran a better leader, but Israel just wanted to throw Iran into complete dysfunction.
They're going for him too? No. The strike was designed to kill the Revolutionary Guard soldiers who were holding him under house arrest. And Ahmadinejad.
Hold on. So y'all did a complete airstrike on a region just to get 2 soldiers that was guarding this guy that we need to replace the Ayatollah. So that's what y'all did? Bro, what is wrong with Israel, bro? There's something wrong with these guys. I remember I was watching a Frontline documentary on how they took out the head of Hezbollah. And you guys know that they bombed his crib and every crib surrounding his crib. Like, that's the problem with Israel, bro. To take out 2 people, they truly believe that they need to take out the entire neighborhood. Then they'll sit here and tell you that we don't go after civilians. Like, really, bro? Bruh. Really? Well, who the fuck you think live around these guys? I'm sorry, but really?
His current whereabouts now are unknown. He has not been heard from since that strike, which raises major questions, to state the obvious, of where is he? Who controls him? This comes as today Trump says the war will resume, quote, very quickly if Iran doesn't reach a deal. Out front now is Mark Mazzetti, investigative reporter for the New York Times, who broke this story on Ahmadinejad. And Mark, I mean, it really is incredible reporting. As I said, you know, it reads like it's out of some sort of a thriller, except for this is real life. You're reporting that Trump and Israel wanted to install a person as ruler of Iran who was a fierce supporter of Iran's nuclear program and had vowed to wipe Israel off the map. That was then, though. Now he was under house arrest, and they felt he could be sort of like Delcy Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think most people's remembrances of Ahmadinejad go back some time, as you discussed, the Holocaust denying and the promoting Iran's nuclear program, and he got lampooned on Saturday Night Live, and that was the image of Ahmadinejad, who over time did, as you said, become a regime critic, so much that they began to question his loyalties. And that's why he was under house arrest for the last period of time. Now, sometime before the war, he was in contact with, we believe, Israeli and American officials, primarily Israeli officials. He had contacts to basically sign off on this idea that if a war were to begin and he were to be freed, he would be part of the regime change plan. As you said, it's quite shocking that this was part of the plan, and then even more shocking.
Yeah, AKA pretty much a guy who said, "Oh yeah, I'm good. I'm down with destroying Israel." Oh yeah, and it wasn't 6 million. Like, this guy right here was supposed to be the replacement plan, guys. That is how I know we just walked in with barely any plan. I mean, you tell me we couldn't have did like better than this guy here, who also wishes for the death of Israel, who's also okay, maybe not denying the Holocaust. Maybe that's a bit new, because I ain't never heard of an Iranian general or a leader doing all that now. But let's be real, we didn't replace this guy with Khomeini, or yeah, we didn't put this guy in replacing Khomeini. I think we honestly just got more of the same, to be quite honest with you guys. We got more of the same. We got duped.
That on the first day of the war, an Israeli strike hits the guard tower of his house, but also injures him. And then he becomes sort of disillusioned with the whole plan, and it's seemingly out of the picture for the moment.
Okay, so let me read something else from your reporting about that strike, which Iranian news outlets initially reported killed Ahmadinejad, right? I remember that day, just sort of stunned at what the scope of this. You write, Mark, the strike did not significantly damage Mr. Ahmadinejad's house at the end of a dead-end street, but the security outpost at the entrance of the street was struck. Satellite images shows that building was destroyed. In the days that followed, official news agencies clarified that he had survived, but that his bodyguards, in actuality, Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps members, who were both guarding him and holding him under house arrest, were killed. And then obviously we can see the destruction in the before and after satellite images of his house. But okay, so as part of this, you're saying, well, then he'd been talking to Israeli officials. I mean, just to even think about the implications of that within the Iranian regime. Now his whereabouts are unknown. So, I mean, I can think of a lot of conspiracy theories here that suddenly become possibilities, Mark. I mean, do you have any sense of where he might be, or what the extent of his injuries are, or what's happening there?
Well, in terms of his injuries, we have, me and my colleagues who were reporting the story, heard that he did not sustain life-threatening injuries, that they were light injuries, that he is alive. But in terms of his whereabouts, we don't know. We don't know where he is. We don't know whose custody he is in, his safety, the safety of his associates. These are some of the questions we still have and are continuing to report out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking back, in the war in Israel, where I was at the time, people discussing certain senior members of the regime. And at the time, they were all conspiracy theories, obviously, about whether they were in Tel Aviv or what might be. I mean, this is all just stunning to even think about what this opens the door to. Now, Trump and his top advisors, Mark, as you know, have been really mixed about regime change in Iran and whether that was part of this. Although, obviously, by taking out the supreme leader and everyone around him, it's pretty obvious.
Nah, it was actually funny. The way they was talking about regime change, like, no, we're not going in there for regime change. And then Trump comes out of nowhere like, well, actually, I know we said we didn't, but I think that's kind of what we got, though. It looks like we might have got regime change on accident. And I'm just sitting here like, oh, brother, like, no, bro, it's not regime change when you got a more hardline Ayatollah in power. And now you got the Iranian IRGC, the IRGC now cracking down on all of the protesters and all of those who we need to fight against the Iranian regime, or the IRGC, the crazy mullahs, right? Yeah, they're now executing these guys by the day I'm gonna be real with you, by the hundreds in the streets. So, yeah. And I know a lot of people say, well, look at them. They're crashing out because they're hanging the people in the street. Bro, they're hanging the people that we need to fight against the regime in the streets. AKA, they're taking out the chances of any type of regime change by taking out those guys and making an example of them by hanging them by cranes. Yes, in the middle of the street for everybody to see. Like, I'm sorry, but yeah, maybe we should have sat on our fingers when it came to this whole popping off of a revolution.
That it is what it is. But Trump has denied regime change as a goal of the war several times. Here he is.
Regime change was not our goal. We didn't do this for regime change. We went in for a very simple reason, and not regime change.
So with the chaos that has ensued since the war started, Mark, how much did Israel count on this Ahmadinejad plan coming to fruition? Did they think they had sort of a bird in the hand? They had a Delsey and ready to go?
Well, first off, when the first act of the war is killing the supreme leader of Iran, I think that raises questions about just the extent that you wanted regime change, and certainly you were trying to change the leadership, right? And to your point about just where Ahmadinejad fit in, it seems that they saw him as someone who could be sort of running the bureaucracy, running the machinery, and a more pliable leader to do what the United States and Israel wanted. It's not wholesale change of everyone on all levels of leadership, but is someone who they had been potentially grooming, who could basically, the Delsey model in Venezuela, could be someone who would be more pro-Western. So as much as American officials want to say that they do not care, that they're not goal of regime change, Iran certainly saw this as an existential war, and changing the leadership was certainly central to the mission of the war.
Kareem, I mean, on this idea of a letter of intent, on what we're learning about the New York Times reporting that this former Iranian president, Ahmadinejad, was in this plan to make him the new leader of Iran. They bombed his house where he was being kept captive by IRGC guards.
Which is crazy. They said they bombed his house to take care of the IRGC guards. And I'm just like, don't you think that's something that you would, I don't know, maybe want to send some snipers at or some ground forces at risk of, killing the target? It doesn't really make too sense to bomb an entire house and neighborhood to take out 2 IRGC guards. Like, that's absolutely insane. But hey, Israel's gonna do Israel.
Really understand how that plan was supposed to work. But then he survived it, but he became disillusioned with the regime change plan after it. I mean, just big picture, what do you make of all of this?
Well, that's a crazy story, Caitlin, because I was based in Tehran when Ahmadinejad was first.
Oh, guys, make sure to like the video, guys. Let's get more people in the conversation by liking that video. So smash that like button if you're on Rumble or YouTube, especially if you're on YouTube, bro. Smash that like button. Appreciate the support.
Elected in 2005, and his 8-year presidency was known for 3 things: denying the Holocaust, calling for Israel to be wiped off the map, and advancing Iran's nuclear program. Prime Minister Netanyahu, a decade and a half ago.
And that's the crazy part. Y'all wanted to put this man in power. Like, I feel like we'd have just got duped. Like, he'd have just been telling us what we wanted. while pretty much doing everything that we feared Iran was going to do. Like, he'd just be like, don't worry, I'm going to bring democracy back to Iran and all this crazy stuff. And then all of a sudden he makes it 10 times more worse than the Ayatollah. They actually get towards a nuke. It's like, I think we'd have got duped, honestly, if we'd have put this guy in. Because I mean, bro's out here saying once F the Jews, which I don't support whatsoever, saying, oh yeah, actually, we actually do need to go towards a nuclear weapon. And bro, while the Ayatollah was pretty much saying that we won't go towards a nuclear weapon, we will not. And if the Ayatollah says it, that's the word of the regime at that point. We're not going towards a nuke. And he's going against the regime saying that we should. So we were going to put this guy in power? I mean, I'm almost happy. You know what, actually, Israel? My bad. No, I'm actually happy you blew this guy up. You know what? My bad, guys. Israel, you did the right thing for once. You did the right thing by blowing this guy up. Can't even be mad at you for this one, because we'd have got duped.
Go called Ahmadinejad the Iranian Hitler. So the idea that, 10, 15 years later, Israel and the United States wanted to install him as Iran's next president, it really defies belief. Now, it's true that Ahmadinejad over the last several years had become more of kind of an internal critic, but he had no institutional power. There was no chance that he could be Iran's Delcy Rodriguez.
There's also this New York Times report, which I found fascinating, that the former president of Iran, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, who many Americans likely will remember, was actually the choice by Israel and with the knowledge of the United States to be the next leader of Iran. Do you find that odd?
That's diplomatic understatement that I find it odd. It makes me think the Onion is putting out the story.
It says that, according to reporting, Ahmadinejad was kind of in on it until the Israelis, they bombed his property, which was apparently to get him released from house arrest. And yet then somehow he changed his.
Yeah, I'm trying to break a bro out of prison. Let me just bomb the entire fucking prison. Like, shoot, I'm like, you broke his soul out of prison, I'll tell you that. Like, shoot, you released that man's soul from captivity.
Mind after that, and now he hasn't been seen up.
Well, this whole thing is remarkably far-fetched, as is the entire idea of regime change in Iran. The idea that military force was going to trigger regime change, and you were then going to get an Iranian leader who was willing and able to cut a deal with you that you could live with was far-fetched. The idea that Ahmadinejad, a Holocaust denier and worse, could have been that person, it's really head-shaking.
Do you think it's not true, or do you think it's just bizarre?
I think either way, his life is either soon going to be over or it is over. It's certainly bizarre if it's true, the idea that people singled him out as someone we could work with.
The fact that he hasn't been seen, he was seen briefly, and now he hasn't been seen of since. That doesn't bode well in Iran ever.
Yeah.
No, and again, this isn't a regime that's been, killed 30,000 or more people. If they had to kill somebody else, I don't think they would morally balk at that.
Yeah, who would? But all right, guys, let's see here. I'm gonna go ahead and get into this video real quick.